I have two different books. One is Wild Fermentation, the Flavor, Nutrition, and Craft of Live Culture Foods, which focuses on fermentation and how to ferment lots of different foods yourself at home. And my second book is The Revolution Will Not Be Microwaved, Inside America's Underground Food Movements. And it was really a pretty direct progression from one to the other. After Wild Fermentation came out, I spent the better part of 2 years traveling around, teaching fermentation workshops, talking to people about fermentation. And the people who I met who were interested in fermentation largely were people who were grassroots food activists of one stripe or another, people who were engaged in what I found to be really interesting projects, whether they were as straightforward as reviving local markets for food, reestablishing farmers markets, people starting CSAs and trying to figure out how fermentation might extend the season of their CSA farms, and many other types of food activism, some of which I wasn't particularly aware of. People who are trying to revive the important art of seed saving. To reclaim our seed stock, people who are involved in food recycling, people who are clean water activists. So anyway, I felt very inspired by all this grassroots food activism that I encountered as I traveled around the country, and I felt inspired to write about it. So The Revolution Will Not Be Microwaved is really the story of grassroots food activist projects that I encountered as I traveled around talking about fermentation. The context in which I see my work in teaching people about fermentation and reviving fermentation is a much larger project of people reclaiming the food that they eat. In a nutshell, I would say that applying the principles of mass production to our food has been a huge failure. It is resulting in environmental destruction. It's resulting in a diminishment of our health. It is resulting in the destruction of any notion of economic security. And I think that it is critically important that people reclaim their food. Now, if you look at the big picture, in certain regards, things are very bleak. We see unprecedented concentration at every level of food production, distribution, etc. I mean, starting with the seed stock and the way that seed ownership has become concentrated, continuing through control of the major livestock markets, continuing through food retailing, where we have, ever larger chain retailers who are dictating the terms to the farmers who are supplying them with food and are determining what choices consumers have. So in one regard, things are very bleak. What I find hopeful is that there is a rapidly growing, dramatic movement of people, demanding organic food, demanding locally produced food, supporting local farmers, more and more people getting involved in local food production, either through the model of community-supported agriculture, or just through small farming ventures. And so, while so far that that force for change, is not, toppling the big actors in the, mass-produced food system. I think that, we really have to focus on how we can create change within our realms. And, one thing I can say for certain is that, sustainability is not a spectator sport. Sustainability is not something you can buy as a consumer. If we want to create sustainability, sustainability means participation, and people have to become participants in in creating better food choices for themselves and for other people in their communities. And so, I think we have to break out of this infantilizing role of consumer, and more of us have to take on creating food for ourselves and for other people. And I'm not preaching self-sufficiency. I'm preaching participation. And I think that there are lots of different ways that people can become participants in creating better food choices in their communities. And I think that thinking about changing the world is too big. It boggles the mind, and it just makes us feel disempowered. We have to think about what we can do in the small realm in which we can have an impact. And we have to do it, and then that gives some structure to hope and positive action in our lives, and really each of us can make a difference, and food is an important realm in which we're all involved with several times every day, through being involved in food production, through helping to create better choices in our communities, we can make a difference and start creating the better world that we want to be part of.